Jorge Masvidal has vowed to finish off Colby Covington, while Islam Makhachev wants to take on Leon Edwards. Are these unlikely fights going to take place for real? Let's find out. Beneil Dariush accuses Islam Makhachev of backing out. After Leon Edwards defeated the Nigerian Nightmare at UFC 286 in his first title defense, he is now waiting for his next challenger, which, as mentioned by Dana White, is probably going to be Colby Covington. But the lightweight champion Islam Makhachev has made things more interesting by expressing his wish to give himself another try to become the best pound-for-pound UFC fighter by challenging Leon Edwards and then possibly putting him down. Islam Makhachev wrote that he wants Leon Edwards next and he is willing to fight him in Abu Dhabi. Beneil Dariush, however, did not like it, and he has gone on to say that Islam is trying to run from the fight. He himself is in search of a #1 contender spot in May, tackling former undisputed lightweight champion Charles Oliveira at UFC 288. Beneil Dariush sounded pretty frustrated while talking about it, as he said during an appearance on Submission Radio,
I don't understand. What about title defenses? It's like people, I don't know what's going on with him. Why? Maybe he's having a hard time making weight at 55 and he's just like, let's just go to 70 and relax. Honestly, I don't get it.
Dariush went on to say that Islam should be sticking to his own division because there are many good fighters in the lightweight. He considers this division to be the best at UFC. While Islam looks to challenge Leon Edwards, the fighters in his own division do not seem happy about it, because they think they deserve those title shots. Khamzat Chimaev believes Jake Paul would defeat Nate Diaz in a potential boxing match. Jake Paul recently talked about MMA fight/boxing match with Diaz in the near future. Before his fight against Tommy Fury, Jake Paul spoke to Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, and he went on to talk about a possible fight between him and Nate Diaz. He indicated that Nate's camp is ready for the fight and that he was going to get through to them real soon because he is really serious about this fight. Jake said that this is something he and his fans want, so he just wants to get down to business as soon as possible. While talking about the type of match, Jake said,
I want to do the one fight boxing, one fight MMA, but I'm not sure if Nate's team is fully aligned on that yet, or I don't know if they realize how serious I am about that. I think they thought I was just doing it for hype.
Jake also said that fans can expect this fight mid-year. Khamzat Chimaev was asked about this fight at the MMA Hour, and he went on to say that Jake Paul is easily going to beat Nate Diaz because Diaz is too old. If this fight was to take place 5 years ago, Nate Diaz might have beaten Paul, but now he has no chance. Khamzat Chimaev vows to break Bo Nickle in future. When it comes to weight class, Khamzat Chimaev has not at all been consistent about it. He has been bouncing between welterweight and middleweight divisions. The man has multiple impressive wins in his UFC career and is yet to taste defeat, but he still has to be consistent. In his previous fight, he was supposed to take on Nate Diaz, but he was not able to make the weight and had to fight Holland, whom he defeated with ease. Bo Nickle, on the other hand, has made his way to the middleweight division pretty recently, and he is a hot prospect at UFC already because of his strong wrestling background. Khamzat Chimaev was asked about him in a recent interview with MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, and he said that he knows the man is a good wrestler, but it is too early for Bo Nickle to fight Khamzat. Khamzat said that he is going to break him if UFC puts Bo Nickle against him. To put it exactly in his words, Khamzat said, I've seen his wrestling, he's a good fighter, maybe we'll fight for a title one day, it's too early to fight me though. If they put him against me now, I'm gonna break him. It is very unlikely that Khamzat Chimaev will face Bo Nickle anytime soon because they are ways apart. Khamzat is one of the top fighters, while Bo Nickle still has to make his way into the top 15. Cory Sandhagen, already plotting Sean O'Malley callout, tells him to earn your stripes before getting a UFC title shot. Cory Sandhagen is ready to enter the cage against Marlon Vera, but he seems to have bigger plans than that. He wants to make his way up in the division to get himself close to a title shot. He believes that when he is done beating Vera, he should make his way to the #1 contender in the bantamweight division, and currently the #1 contender is Sean O'Malley. While talking about his future plans, Cory said, win over Vera obviously moves him closer to taking out someone who has a lot of hype, so he would be surprised if the UFC does not put him against O'Malley, who is currently not booked anywhere as he is just sitting there waiting for his title shot. He said, quote, "I can't really think of a reason the UFC wouldn't want to have that fight, especially with Cejudo and Sterling booked all the way in. Why wouldn't they do me and O'Malley?" O'Malley, it seems, is going to be away from the octagon for the better part of the year, because UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling is to take on Henry Cejudo at UFC 288 in May, and after that, O'Malley might get his title shot. Now, Cory Sandhagen wants to get his hands on O'Malley, and he wants the winner of the fight to get a title shot. Let's see if the UFC manages to make this fight. Chael Sonnen claims Joe Rogan is on drugs for claiming Jorge Masvidal is better than George St-Pierre. The argument of greatest of all time is one that can be heard each time a champion wins or defends a belt. So comparing fighters from the past and present is a very common thing in the combat sport. In a recent episode of his podcast, Joe Rogan went on to make a comparison just like that, as he drew comparison between George St-Pierre in his prime and the now Jorge Masvidal. Joe Rogan seems to think that Jorge Masvidal is better amongst the two as he is more organized. Chael Sonnen, however, did not take kindly to the statement made by Joe Rogan. He said that the statement is not at all rational. He said that Joe Rogan thinking today's welterweights to be superior is not at all right. He then went on to remind him what George was capable of, and to put it exactly in Chael Sonnen's words,
what kind of visual are you going to put in when George goes out there and dominates a wrestling champion like Josh Koscheck, or knocks out a world champion like Matt Hughes, or passes the guard of a jiu-jitsu ace like Nate Diaz? I mean, what kind of equation are you putting into the gap? Which 170-pounder do you believe can take George St-Pierre down? Now answer it honestly. What 170-pounder out there do you believe George cannot take down? I mean, let's just start with that. You cannot deduce one entity by drawing a conclusion to others. And if you do it, we should dismiss you. And we should tell the kids in the back seat, that guy is on drugs.
Jorge Masvidal vows to murder Colby Covington legally. The beef between Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington is not hidden from anyone. Both of them hate each other, and even went through court procedures after Jorge Masvidal attacked Colby in Miami Street. Jorge Masvidal was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he made it clear that he is not done with Colby, adding that he is going to take care of him before he retires. Masvidal said,
I didn't get him that time, but I promise you, before my career is over, I'm gonna murder Colby in the cage, legally.
He added that he is going to legally snatch his soul in the octagon. While talking about Covington, he went on to say that Colby is all talk, and he likes to copy people and talk crap on Twitter. He is scared of doing real shit. Masvidal said,
be you, bro. Just go out there and beat dudes up and say what you gotta say, and it'll come to you. It took me a while to get here, I had to knock out and beat numerous people, ex-world champions to get here, but it'll come. You don't have to sell out for the dollar, bro.
Who wouldn't love to see those two going at each other? Because they are thirsty for each other's blood, and the world knows it.